Welcome to part 3E of this Peatland ACTION mini-series on how to complete the spatial data template. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to add polygon features into the forest to bog layer. You'll see here that we have a fresh template where I've added a site outline, some features into the restoration lines layer, and feature into the area-based restoration layer. These were all covered in previous videos 3A, 3B and 3C. A separate area has been used for the bare peat stabilisation layer in the video 3D, as no bare peat was visible on this site. Today we'll be looking at updating the forest to bog layer, but before we do so, I'll just recap a few key points. The site outline layer needs to be populated first, as the site ID then becomes a mandatory column in all of the other layers. It's also recommended that you have at least 2 sources of aerial imagery available to help you with your mapping. As well as this, we recommend having the Spatial Data Guidance PDF open alongside your GIS project. I've opened this document to the left and scrolled down to the forest to bog layer description table. The features in the attribute column relate to the column names in the forest to bog table in the Spatial Tables group of the GIS template. The layer description tables provide information about the data types, the units, a description of the data that we're looking for, and whether the fields are mandatory or not. As per the other layers, we can ignore the FID as mandatory and the geometry as mandatory, as neither of these are visible in the feature attributes box which pops up when you create a feature. Therefore, we can see that we have 3 mandatory columns in the forest to bog table: the site ID, previous cover, and the techniques. You'll note that there's no dependencies within the mandatory column of the layer description table, and there's only one text constrained value. Back to the GIS window. In order to add a feature to the forest to bog layer, it needs to be selected in the Layers panel and editing mode needs to be toggled on. This can be done by either right-clicking and toggle editing, or clicking the pencil icon in the toolbar above. To the right of the pencil icon, you'll see another icon become active, and this is the Add a Feature icon. You'll note that the symbology here matches the geometry of the layer selected for editing. So in this case, it's a polygon. Pan to the area that you want to digitize the forest to bog feature in, and then use the magnifying glass to zoom in. Back up in the toolbar, click the Add a Feature icon. Draw your polygon around the forestry parcel that you're looking to restore with forest to bog techniques. One right click will finish the feature and bring up your forest to bog feature attributes pop-up box. From the pop-up box, you can see that there are 3 mandatory fields: site ID, previous woodland cover, and techniques, which aligns with the layer description table in the PDF guidance to the left. The site ID is not auto-completed for this layer, and therefore use the drop-down menu to select one. Note that if you didn't have a site outline in the project, you wouldn't be able to select a site ID and you wouldn't be able to draw this feature. Next, select the previous woodland cover by accessing the drop-down menu, and we'll select coniferous. The average stump size is not a mandatory field, however, if you have the information available, please do add it. And the techniques are listed in a similar tick box format to the current use and peatland condition in the site outline layer. This means that you can have multiple selection if appropriate. So I'm going to choose ground smoothing and stump flipping. As always, there's the other, please specify a notes option in case your technique is not listed within these restricted values. Once you've completed the mandatory fields, you can press OK and your feature will appear in the background mapping. In order to save this feature permanently, you need to press the floppy disk symbol in the toolbar at the top. This will save the layer edits to your forest to bog layer, and you can toggle editing off if you're not planning to digitize any other features in this layer. There are other videos within this mini-series, including how to set up a template, how to add features, and how to undertake self-QA. These can all be found on the Nature Scott Peatland ACTION webpage.